Hi, heroes. This is Stan Lee, but that's no excuse. I have a real treat in store, I think, for you, and I think mainly for me, because my guest is someone whom I've known for years, but I've never had enough time to really talk to. And I finally pinned him down, and he's going to be a captive of mine for the next hour or whatever it'll be. He's not only one of the most talented guys in our business, and in fact, in almost any business, but he's one of the most likable, one of the most humorous, and I don't want to embarrass him, so let's get right to it. I want you to meet Sergio Aragonés. Hiya, Sergio. Great having you here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And now it's up to you. I can relax and have a good time.
Very good. Welcome to the show.
Listen, I guess it's my job to ask you some questions. I don't think there's anybody who doesn't know that you're one of the world's cleverest and fastest cartoonists, that you've been drawing for Mad, and you also write the things you draw for years. You've been doing Gru for Marvel, other things. We'll learn about all of them. But let's first find out about your childhood. I think everybody wants to know how people got started, where they were born, what they did. So your earliest memories.
Oh, my earliest memories are, well, I was born in Spain, and I was during the Spanish Civil War. So my family emigrated, first to France, which I went to school there.
You speak French too, don't you?
Yes, yes. And then from France we went to Mexico. And when I arrived to Mexico, I didn't speak any Spanish. So being afraid of going out with the kids, I stayed a lot at home.
Wow, how old were you then?
4 or 5. And then when you are alone at home, you draw and you tell yourself stories. And I think when my earliest recollections has been a paper and pen and ink. I was always drawing all the time since I remember. Yep.
You taught yourself to draw. You didn't study formally, did you?
No. I don't think myself as an artist. I never went to art school. I like to tell stories, and the only way I could tell them was drawing them. So I think I'm a writer that draws instead to be an artist complete.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to paint. Everything has been through development. When I want to draw something, I have to look how it looks and then practice it until it comes out right. Then I can draw it.
You know, it's very interesting you say that, because most people who see Sergio's artwork, they see his cartooning, they think of him as a cartoonist or as an artist, and they feel someone else is doing the writing. But all these ideas are Sergio's. In other words, he writes what he wants to draw. He's created it himself in something like Gru. Someone else puts the words in, but the story is yours.
Yes. Well, even going a little farther back, I come from a pantomime background. Mostly all the cartoons I do without words. Even when I was in Mexico drawing cartoons, we'll talk a little more about that. When I went into comics, I started writing comics of all things, but not speaking English correctly, much less writing, because I never learned English in school. I have always need somebody to help me with the dialogue. And so in the case of Gru, I write the stories, and then with a very excellent writer, he's Mark Evanier, he corrects all my language. We go through some gags, and he edits, and he does a lot of work. He writes all the poetry. But I do write the
You know, speaking of language, I don't know if you know this, Sergio speaks 5 languages fluently, so he can not only be misunderstood in one language, he can confuse you in 5 different languages.
Well, it does when you travel a lot and then you want to communicate. And coming from a Latin background, all the languages I speak, they're
You're
related.
Latin, are you?
Si,
Really?
senor.
No one
Si,
would ever
senor.
guess.
So it's all related.
Incidentally,
So
we have a couple of surprises for people later. We're going to see Sergio draw. We're saving that for the end, because that's one of the best for last. Also, Sergio, you may have just mentioned a moment ago, I think he mentioned it very quickly, he had been a meme. And I hope I can we haven't rehearsed this. I hope I can twist his arm and get him to give us a little demonstration of his memeing ability.
I'm a little too fat for that already.
Well, when we get up and head toward the board, maybe you can do a little something.
The thing with the pantomime is, when I was in college, I was in the theater group, and not because I wanted to become an actor. All my friends were actors, so I will go and wait for them after rehearsal, and they would say, "Sergio, you are doing nothing, come and start acting." So I did that. But when Marcel Marceau came into town in Mexico, and one of his the people who was in his tour was Alejandro Jodorowsky, which is an excellent writer. Also, he writes comics and directs wonderful movies, avant-garde director. He opened a pantomime school, so I figured out that for my drawings, it would be great to know pantomime, so I could understand physically what I wanted to draw.
Right.
So my entering to the pantomime school was more to learn the action that I wanted to describe on my drawings, but knowing them from inside instead of looking at a mirror or having to learn it, so I could.
You could
control my
almost
body.
say that you learned to draw from the inside out.
That's right.
And I don't know what that means any more than you do.
Well, it does. It has to do with equilibrium. If your characters are balanced, and if you know what the position is and what the actions are, knowing them yourselves, then you can portray them.
You know, it's an incredible thing because at first blush, you look at Sergio's cartoons and they look so simple. But if you really study them, I'm glad you used the word balance. They are beautifully balanced and beautifully poised, and the layout and the rhythm of the figures is beautifully done. Now, he does it automatically. I mean, you don't think consciously of that. I mean, it just flows out of you, and it must be part of your meme background.
Well, it also has to do with when I'm telling a story, I transport myself there. So if I'm doing a street scene, I'm there. So I get into it, and I would like to see the vendors and the mud on the street and the dogs barking. So slowly, as I'm drawing, I'm figuring out the scene as if I was there.
Could we show a little of that from this Grue book? There are some great backgrounds in here, if the camera can catch them.
Yeah, I guess. Well, here, this one.
Okay. Now, go on. You point out the things you're talking
Well,
about.
I don't know what.
Which way should Grue hold the book? Okay. Here we are.
This is like a fair, and if you start, you have the minstrel who's telling the story with a poem by Mark Evanier, and then you can see that they have jugglers and they have a bear and they have the little ladies there sitting someplace waiting, like in a small town.
Wherever you look, there's a little detail that can interest you.
Yeah, and the vendors, they come with animals, and it's always something that I enjoy, that if I had to be in that village, that's how I would like the village to look like.
And what about the authentic stuff? Like you have some boats there that are really beautifully drawn.
Well, humor doesn't mean... There's a separation, a dichotomy here in gag cartooning and comic book drawing. When you're doing a gag, like for Mad, you want total simplicity. You don't want anything that will disrupt from the gag. You want a gag that, when you look at it, boom, makes you laugh.
Right.
So any extra lines are not necessary. Because you see at the gag, it's only one gag. Next you pass something else, has nothing to do with that. So your mind is clear of anything except the gag. You read it, it was clear, you laugh. Now, when we're doing a comic, it is a storytelling. Now we want all the opposite. We want a lot of background. We want the people to feel that the character is moving in a particular place, that the ships belong to a particular era. Grue doesn't belong to any particular era because it's just a barbarian in a mythical world. So if I draw a ship that is a square rig, then people say, that's that particular period. So if you draw a Viking ship, then he's a Viking. So you have to take a little of everything and invent your own ship. But it has to work. They have to get a feeling that it's wind, that the ship is going someplace, that the character belongs there. So you create a little universe, but you have to fill it up with stuff. So people are comfortable. And the soldiers have to look like soldiers. And if he's a bad guy, he has to look like a bad guy. And the more you can add to it, the better.
You got to find that picture of the ship and show, because especially afterward, you probably don't know which book it's in now, and you're not going to be able to find it. And nobody's going to know what you were talking about.
Yes, it's in this one.
Attaboy.
This is the one with the slavers.
See, this is known as a little dramatic
Here.
interval to keep your interest up. There we are.
Well,
now look at that ship.
You look at it and say, there's no such a ship. You know, if you have a Latin sail, you don't have this type of ending. Of course not. But that's on purpose. It's not that, because then it will put the ship in a particular period of time.
But it looks real looking at it.
Well,
it's believable.
Also, one thing I do is before I start a story, if it's going to take place in a particular setting, I draw the plan first of it. Then I place the houses, and then where's the mountain is going to be and where the action is going to take. I do a little schematic drawing of it. And when I'm drawing my backgrounds, then I look where I have placed my point of view, then I know what to do in the background without having to, oh, what goes there, or where are they facing?
I understand.
So I can follow it, and it says, no, he couldn't be there because there's a mountain over there. Then I look and say, oh, that's a lot of fun. I really have, that's how I enjoy myself.
I think you probably enjoy drawing as much as anybody I've ever known. I think it's the most fun you feel you can have. Let me ask you this. You've been with MAD for many years, haven't you?
Yes, since 1962.
Yeah. How did you get started at MAD?
Well, I have already been working as a professional in Mexico for many years, and I have always gone to see what was happening all over the world. We get cartoons from Mexico, we get Argentina, Europe, the United States. And when I was, I didn't know that much English. I was trying to learn it. I read a lot of cartoons from Spanish background, and I always wanted to expand my horizons. I want to go to Europe and become a cartoonist over there because all my pantomime cartoons were more or less inspired by by French cartoonists. But I also love the comic books, and it was both routes to take. But I didn't know that much about comics. The only thing I knew about comics is the stories I made. Mm-hmm. So I decided that one day somebody told me how much money an American cartoonist made. This is America, here I come. What happened is that in Mexico, we were paid proportionate to what a syndicate gets paid for a cartoon. So you'll go to a Mexican magazine and it says, well, I want to get paid for this. It says, well, here is $1 because that's what we pay for this reprint from the best American cartoonist.
Right.
So the only way was to come to the States, get your original pay, and then send your cartoon to Mexico and get your dollar back. So I came to the States looking for, and I had a lot of material already published in Mexico. I've been working for many years, all through school. And so when I arrived, it was very hard. I went to New York. I didn't know anybody, but nobody. And I had literally $18 in my pocket. So it was very scary. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems I had is that the word syndicate means union in Spanish, sindicato. So I figured out that to publish in the United States, you have to belong to the union.
Oh,
so because all the cartoons says syndicate, sindicato. You know, so
and you thought they were all unionized.
Not only that, they would work as agents, sending you work around. So I keep going to the syndicates. It says, I want to belong to the syndicate. So does everybody. But after a cartoonist I met says, no, Sergio, that's not how you work. You have to go to do the rounds. So I started learning the ways of how American cartoonists function.
And the $18 was starting to dwindle.
Oh, a long time they have gone. I was working in the village in a coffee house. I was reciting flamenco poetry in the village. So yes, doing anything to get some money.
Yeah.
But eventually, everybody says, "Well, your cartoons are very crazy. Why don't you go to MAD?" You know. But I knew MAD. I have been a fan of MAD in Mexico, but I knew they didn't publish cartoons. They published satire.
That's right.
And incredible drawings. So I knew there was no way I could ever work there. But I had to do it because everybody says, you have to go to MAD. So when I went to MAD and they look at the cartoons, they saw it as an article. I had probably, 40 gags about astronauts. So they took it and they made a 2-pager and says, well, we have bought 2 pages of gags.
About astronauts.
About astronauts, so they call it a mad look at the United States space effort, something like that. So that was my first article. And they make the mistake to tell me, well, mi casa es su casa. I took it literally, and I was there the next day. You know?
They couldn't get rid of you.
No, well, one of the editors, when I went out literally with, I remember exactly, then they were paying $50 per page for art and $50 per page for script.
Yeah.
So I got $200, you know. And
better than that $1 from back from Mexico.
Whoa. But what happened is they told me, well, come and bring another article. And I told them, like what? They said, well, you have a couple of gags on motorcycle cops. Do something about motorcycle cops. I went to the hotel. I didn't sleep. I worked all night long. And at 8 o'clock next day, there I am with another.
They said we didn't
gags.
mean so soon.
No, but they did buy it, you know.
Yeah.
And also, I had so much. To make the story short, because we can talk here for hours, is that
that's okay.
The first issue that my work appeared on MAD, the cover was my idea. I had the marginals in about 20 of them, and 2-page
Are you
article.
the one who started those marginals? Was that your idea to do them? I'm sure you all know what we're talking about. Sergio does these little drawings in the margins of Mad Magazine, which are known all over the world. Did they tell you to do that, or did you suggest that?
I suggested
Really?
that. What they had on the old Mads, there were little signs related to movies. They were very clever. But every time I asked or Nick or Jerry DeFugio, the editors, Nick Meglin, I asked them what it means. He says, well, did you see that movie? And says, no. Well, then it won't make any sense to you. And then I will point another one. It were puns on words that they were very old and they didn't make any sense. So I asked them, why don't we make drawings? And they told me it couldn't be possible to have pantomime cartoons so small without any words. So I says, yes, no. So I did it. I said, well, we run them until you run out of ideas. And so far it's been 30 years, every issue without missing one.
So the whole thing was just your idea.
Well, yeah, for the drawings, yes.
And it's certainly one of the most popular features in Mad Magazine. I think that's great.
I still get people who find it for first time and says, oh, I didn't know they had, and they have to go back to all the issues to look for them.
Well, and what about what you're doing today, Sergio? What are you doing mostly today?
Well, I'm still doing Mad. I'm doing the pages. I'm doing pocket books once a year. And I'm doing Gru, which is the monthly comic. And right there, I have about 14 hours a day work.
Well,
I do some cartoons for syndication also, like the astronauts. And this cartoon that's in background with a fireman.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a weekly page that gets published as a filler up in some of the European Grus.
Well, you're pretty big in Europe. You know, it's a funny thing, speaking of Europe, with all the work you do, luckily you're so fast that you still find time. You've been around the world a lot of times, haven't you?
Oh, yes, yes.
Are there any countries you haven't been to?
Australia, I haven't
You
had
never
a
made,
chance
I
yet.
want to go there too. Maybe we'll
And
go there
New
together
Zealand,
sometime.
New Zealand, too.
Yeah, I want to do that.
Yes, it's been a curiosity all my life, trying to see the places that I have read in books and how they really look, and the people, and the costumes and everything. It's been a fascination for me from the beginning. So from early time, I've been just moving from one place to another and going all over.
You also take trips with MAD. I believe once a year they take an annual jaunt somewhere, right?
Those are famous. Yeah, every year, Bill Gaines, the publisher, invites the whole staff, and we go to. We've been in Africa, Russia, Morocco.
That's terrific.
Name it,
Yeah.
and we've been in it, and it's been wonderful. It's a way to see all the other artists and to really communicate with them, and it's been one of my best experience ever, because for 10 days, 14 days, you share your meals and everything with people that I have admired all my life, and they're my friends now. It's like sitting here, you know.
Well, that's the way I feel, having a guy like you over here, let me tell you. Now, what about the sea? I have a feeling that you're really into water. You've been a diver.
Yes.
You had your own sailboat.
Yeah.
There was a third thing that you told me once, and I've forgotten what it was.
Oh,
but
no.
We'll think of it. There was a third thing. wasn't
The
there?
aquatic ballet, the diving.
Can you imagine this clumsy guy doing aquatic ballet?
I was thin
I'm
one
kidding.
time.
You're
I
not
was
clumsy.
thin once.
Yeah.
I
Tell
was
us about
thin.
it.
That was a way to. I have always been a swimmer, and I like the water. And it started when we were in the university.
Yeah.
One day they had closed the swimming pool because they had all these girls who were on an aquatic ballet team, and all the guys were sitting on the stands. You know, they couldn't even go swim. I says, what happens? is They have this selection for aquatic ballet, and all the girls they didn't want any of the boys. I said, I'm going to swim. So I told the guy who was there that I was part of the swimming team, the aquatic ballet, and I went to the lady in charge and says, I want to belong. And I started. I was been diving, and I was a clown.
Well, I was going to say, weren't you a clown?
Yeah, that's what I did. I did funny dives
Yeah.
with a big striped suit. And
I could
it
do
was
that
fun.
because I'm a rotten diver. But I guess if you're no good, it doesn't come across funny. You have to be good at it in order to be funny bad, don't you?
The only thing you have to be good is you fell bad, it's going to hurt a lot. So if you know how to fail, then you save a lot.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And the boat was a dream, always the perfect dream for a cartoonist. I want to go in a sailboat and anchor in a little island and put a canopy on top and write their ideas.
Yeah,
You know? Well, by the time you can do that, the boat doesn't work, there's no wind, there's a storm. The dreams are different of
It's
the
funny
realities,
that-
but it's a lot of fun.
And I think that's the dream of so many artists and writers, too, either to have a little island or a little mountain cabin somewhere where I could be alone and create, and it never sort of works out right.
Because creation comes, believe it or not, with contact with people. I'm never more comfortable writing than when I'm in a coffee house. I get oblivious of what's happening around me, and you see people passing by, colors, movement, different things, and all that gives you ideas. And contrary to a writer that writes a book that takes him a year and a half to write one book, we have to write one book a month.
That's right.
And the different it is, the better.
I often say it's almost like doing a motion picture.
Oh, yeah.
One after another,
Yes.
you know, and people don't realize the thought that goes into it and the storytelling ability you have to have, because it has a beginning, middle, and end, just like a movie. It has subplots, it has building up to a climax, it has to be paced correctly. Everything is like doing a screenplay.
Yeah, it's a total parallel. You are the director, you're directing your actors, you're casting, you're directing dresses, backgrounds, editing. Even the camera work, when you have to place what is a close-up when the guy's talking more.
Yeah.
But many movie makers in Europe read comics. Akira Kurosawa wouldn't even think starting his movie if he doesn't have done a storyboard.
Yeah.
Alain Resnais is a fan of comics, and many authors, yes.
Alain Resnais, he came to see us years ago, and he said he had learned to speak English reading comics.
That's right.
Sure, I recall that. Well, you're in a great position, because if you think about it, you write, you draw, you've been an entertainer, and when you talk about the cinematic quality of movies, you were even involved in television. Didn't your dad have a studio in Mexico?
Well, he was a producer. He was in the industry, and I grew up in it.
Yeah.
The first jobs that I had is when my father saw me and "What are you doing right now?" "I have a vacation." He will take me to the studio and I will work, or helping the editors rewinding things, or putting dresses on the storage, or building wax bottles.
Yeah.
Or painting a set. You know, it was always keeping you busy.
And in the meantime, you're absorbing all the information about putting things together, show together.
Well, I will always escape, and if they were making a Western movie, I will get myself guns and play in a real cowboy set. I fell on the street all the time, like being shot.
You've acted, haven't you?
Yes, that was... everything is related. You cannot be a writer or a cartoonist or a musician without being an actor. You have to act. And it's like an animator. I've done animation, and what it has helped me more in that is the fact that I have acted, because you feel your movements. And acting has been because I have known the director that I was doing the writer first, and the writing in Laughing. I was hired to do 6 specials with George Slaughter as a writer.
That's right,
I
remember.
The animation for it.
Yeah.
Well, what happened is I was doing my gags as a storyboard. So when we sit in the meeting for the guy who designed the clothes and the makeup and everything, they will go through the script, and this is who's going to do this and who's going to be cast and that. So when they went to my script, he says, who's going to be the general here? So the producer, George, looked at it and says, well, Sergio just cast himself as the general. So that was it. The guy, very normal, took me to put a suit and makeup. So I was suddenly part of the team.
The funny thing is, I guess acting is really a part of life for everybody. I mean, for instance, me, right now, I mean, I'm acting as though I'm really listening to what you're saying, as if I'm interested in what you're saying. I think I'm putting on a great performance, and no one is ever going to know it.
It was so natural.
Yeah,
oh
I know.
God.
Hey, I got something else to tell you. I don't know if you remember this. I have a little picture here. I don't know if you've looked at it yet.
Looking at
oh,
it
you
right
seen it? You did this. I happen to be one of the million people who has a Sergio Aragonés original. Shame on you, I've only got one. And this is not the original. It's a Xerox of it, because I have your original under lock and key at home. You say I only look at it once a year on special occasions. But we were at a dinner somewhere, I don't recall, and we were with a guy named Captain Sticky. Do you remember? He was a guy, a heavy-set guy who dressed up in a superhero costume, and I forget what the reason was.
He had sort of like a complaint about if there was too much pollution in a place, he will go and smear everything with peanut butter or something.
That's right. He was a do-gooder in real life.
Yes, and he had a gun that shot peanut butter, marmalade, or something.
And jelly.
A jelly, that's it, to places.
He was a funny guy. He got a lot of rides. Well, anyway, I was sitting next to Captain Sticky at this dinner, and you were there, and I see you sketching it for about 12 seconds, and then you handed this to me, and I don't know if the camera can catch it, but that was me sitting with Captain Sticky, and he wrote "Love Aragonés," and to you it meant nothing, but to me it's a treasure, an artistic treasure. Now, speaking of art, I think it's time now to get you. I mean, you've had all this fun talking, which is easy. We have to get some work out of you now. We have a drawing board there.
That's easier.
But while we get up to go to the drawing board, is there anything you can think of to show us a little of this meme ability of yours?
Well, it was
Is there a way to walk to the board in a funny way or something?
yes, but it would be like the thing when you're
Yeah.
pulling from a rope, an invisible rope, and you go suddenly like that.
Great,
you know,
that's
like-
great right there.
And they're pulling you away from
Yeah.
it. Hey, wait a minute.
You see, so we weren't kidding when he said he had been a meme.
No, it's a lot of fun. It's difficult for television because you already have like a glass of it. That's why you never see pantomime on television. See, when you see it in person, you can fake everybody like they have a glass thing that they're moving around.
Yeah, yeah.
But the glass is there on the television, so
Oh,
it
I see what
automatically
you mean.
breaks the
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing.
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, anyway, we got a little bit of acting out of you. See, I didn't want people to think that what I say isn't the gospel. you
I've
see.
been acting also the whole time.
I
have to
know it.
confess.
Yeah. You've been trying to act as if you're interested also. Okay, on to the drawing board. What do you say? Hey, Maestro, now we've got the best part of the show coming up. At least it's the best for me because you're going to do all the work and I'll just stand and watch you. And what could be better than that, huh?
Be fun.
Listen, Sergio, you know, for so many years, people have said what a fast artist you are. Are you really that fast? Give a demonstration of how fast you
For
draw.
instance, if I
huh?
had to draw,
Oh, wow. Hey, oh my.
see, you have
Look
to draw like
at
that.
that.
See, that's how a serious guy have to draw, you know.
Sure.
in a
Now,
cartoon-
let's stop kidding around, huh?
No, a serious artist would draw like this if I had to draw. See, this would.
What's taking you so long?
Well, because it's just generic cartoon, you know. I mean, it's,
Son of a gun.
well, the difference is when an artist that draws the serious comics draws, let's say, a hand. Well, the hand has to look like a hand. The guy has to study anatomy, and the hand has to have certain proportions, you know.
Right.
But when you draw in a cartoon hand, this is a hand.
Yeah.
See, or this is a hand.
Funny thing is, I
So
think
this is-
this looks more like my hand than that one does.
It's just faster. Cartooning lends to speed.
Now, you do mostly cartoons. How would you do, this ought to be fun, how would you do a superhero if you were doing one?
Well, first I will start with a generic face, which is cartoon face, you know, a confidence eye. Then I will have to give him a cape because all superheroes have a cape, and then big muscles.
Those are big muscles.
Well,
I should have known.
Cartoon form of big muscles. Then I've got to give him some tights, you know, and then very skinny legs because all my cartoons have skinny legs, you know. And then he will be grabbing a villain, you know, like this, and the villain will look kind of like this, you know.
Oh, that's terrific. Do you, when you work at
Big
home,
smile.
is this the way you draw? I mean, do you sit at a board like this with a magic marker?
No,
or
no,
do you-
no.
This is just for the show.
Yeah, you have to draw much smaller.
Yeah.
You know, you draw.
Do you draw actual size? You don't draw it the size that it's in the book.
Double
There's
size. Double size.
Double the size it is in the book.
There's a cartoon on that side that I do for Mad Magazine.
You know,
that,
I'd like to show this. This is one of the funniest things I have ever seen.
Yeah, that's the size I draw the cartoon.
Okay, so this is the actual size you draw.
Yeah.
But besides being an example of the actual size, I've just got to show this gag. Now here is obviously a woman who's been captured by cannibals, and they're gonna cook her in a what, pot, right? Okay. Now that's a very tragic rendering, and we're all worried as we look at that, and we wonder what's going to happen. Luckily, here's somebody like Tarzan who hears the call, and he's obviously coming to help. And here's the punchline. This is the gag. He's standing in line with the other natives holding his knife and fork. I mean, I think that's just great. That is a typical Aragonés. And I think it's a great example of how you, as a cartoonist, are a writer because you dreamed up the gag. I mean, you wrote the gag as well as drew it.
And you don't need any words for it.
You surely don't.
The pantomime will express the whole thing.
But that's one of my favorites.
But that's the size I draw. And also because of the cleanliness and the sharpness of the line, you have to draw always double. The only thing these things is so you can capture, for instance, when we're talking about expressions, and you try to tell somebody about a cartoon expression, then you can go from a very subdued face that has no expression whatsoever and then to a surprise face, for instance, like, whoa, the super exaggeration in cartoon that is so necessary, or laughter, you saw like, you have to go all the way around the total exaggeration, a little tear coming out. So expression is what makes a cartoon. If you don't get expression, for instance, a guy is sleeping, little nose, the hand like a little hand going like this. You see, it gets like, yeah. And the same expression can be done with any animal. If you're drawing a human being, but if you're drawing a dog and you want to make him laugh, well, it's the same thing.
Dogs laugh like people laugh.
In cartoon land,
cartoon.
yes.
Sure, they
Birds
do.
laugh the same way.
You give them the teeth and everything.
Yes, because it's a cartoon. You see, cartoons have the great advantage that you can draw anything you want, and it won't make a difference. If a serious comic book artist is drawing an elephant, and if he doesn't look like an elephant, he's going to be considered a bad artist. In cartooning, the drawing makes no difference.
Well,
it's a joke.
You have to draw something with a trunk and big ears and stumpy legs, and it'll be an elephant.
Right. But that doesn't mean that if you are starting your career, you have to look at a lot of elephants to understand their principle. Their mass, their volume, their
But it's a feeling, and to me, it's just like when you were talking about being a clown. You remember when you were a swimming clown?
Yeah.
You have to be a good swimmer in order to be able to look funny. Just like a rodeo clown has to be a really good rodeo star in order to do what he does. Now, it seems to me you've got to really know what an elephant looks like in order to do a cartoony elephant.
Yes.
The same with a boat, the same with a man, the same with anything.
Well,
so it's not quite as easy as it looks. You make it look incredibly easy, I must say.
You have to learn perspective for the doing the balance. You have to learn architecture, so the houses look like a period. Then you can redraw it. When a lot of people say, well, draw a train.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing I do is go through a book of trains to look how a train looks like. Then sometimes I build a model for a train, or I go on to look at the train. You have to get into how a train works. Then you invent your own train, because now you know the elements and how they function. You start from the front, they have a little light over here, or that light sometimes is here, and then they have a big
cow catcher,
and then they have two steam things that propels the wheels, and they have two little wheels, then they have a chimney, So you are talking to yourself to describing that locomotive. See, but you have seen that locomotive before, many times. Because you have to draw it, you see?
That's just insane. So then what we said before was right. You have to know it before you can do it in a cartoony way. You've got to know what the thing is.
There's no magic in this. The magic comes with a lot of practice. And when people say, oh, Sergio, you can do it because you're a genius. This is, you are underestimating 8 hours a day for the last 20 years of practicing and many hours in the library. That's the genius part of it, is that you research and you practice.
Well, maybe you'd be more comfortable with the word talent rather than genius, but there are many, many cartoonists, and many fine and good cartoonists, but there are very few who draw like you. And I have the greatest respect for anybody who has his own style, who can do something that other people do, but he does it in his own individualistic way. Now, I don't know anybody who draws as quickly as you, and I don't know anybody who really draws the way you draw. So I think if that isn't genius, it's certainly talent.
No. It's just a lot of
practice.
rare
Talent.
A lot of practice.
And of course, this is as nice as I'll ever get to for you, because the cameras are on you and everything. When we're alone, we can really get honest, and I'll tell you all the mistakes you made over there and so forth. But that train was really great. You're not slowing down. You can keep doing. Hey, do you remember once we were at a roast? I think it was for Harlan Ellison.
Harlan Ellison.
Do you remember?
Yes.
And I was one of the guests, and I made my little speech. And I saw you had a flipboard, an easel behind that. And all the time we were all making our speeches, you were sketching. And it was the most frustrating thing, because the audience could see what you were sketching, but none of us on stage could. Well, what is it you were sketching during that roast?
I was sketching whatever people were talking about. Like, if you were talking this story in the roast, I will be drawing you trying to see me. I will be here drawing that anecdote that you just described. I will be just doing this as you're talking about the story.
Yeah, there we were
drawing,
at the roast, and you were standing back there with an easel.
And now you know what you were doing, you'll be...
trying to look back. Oh, you didn't get my strong macho chin in there, but that's okay. Hey, that's
Sure
that is great. That
and
is
then
terrific.
the other people, they were science fiction, they were talking, like, and there I was drawing.
Now I'm going to show you.
That was what I was doing over there, just...
Don't throw it away yet. I want to show you how opportunistic I am. Could I see how you sign your name? What does your autograph look like? Okay, now instead of throwing it over there, attaboy, Stan, I think.
Yes.
Stan will do it. Yeah, we're going to put this one over here, and if anyone comes near it, they're dead. Thank you, Sergio. All right, the rest of the show is all downhill. I got what I wanted. Let's see now. There's got to be something else that we can...
Gru?
Oh my God! Of course, Gru, your
publicity.
biggest, most popular thing today.
Well, this is the character. It's very simple to
Spelled
draw.
G-R-O-O.
Yeah, Gru.
A Marvel comic book, written and drawn by you, with copy by Mark Evanier, and it's been a great seller now. How long have you been doing Gru?
We're in issue 84, so
Right.
that's one a month.
84 months. Has it been that long?
That's
Wow.
right, without missing an issue.
Now, Gru is a cartoon version of really Conan the Barbarian, but he's a little bit dumber,
Yeah, it is.
more lovable, perhaps.
It is on the genre of Conan. Is a barbarian. Has nothing to do with Conan.
No, I know.
But it is on the same genre like any other people who live on the jungle. Is on the genre of Tarzan, even if he's not a. And what I've been trying to do with Gru is to show that violence doesn't pay. He's an ignorant barbarian who doesn't know how to read and write. That's why he never succeeds. And all the issues here, at the end, he loses whatever he's trying because he's not educated. He just fights.
And basically, you see, people think of it as just a funny strip, a funny comic book. They don't realize the deep significance because you're also showing how important education is in the world in which we live. And they don't realize it's a great social document and a commentary on today's political situation and social mores and so forth. And they don't realize you're more of a social scientist than a cartoonist.
It's a good vehicle for it. I'm doing an issue right now that criticizes television. Of the people spending too much time on it, but there were no television on the time of Gru.
So how are you doing it? How are you
puppets.
getting? Oh,
it's
that's
a puppet
great.
show.
That's great.
So the puppet show works as a...
And you have couch potatoes watching the puppets?
Everything, yes. The people who want, instead of doing their own life, they are watching puppets. So to do puppets, you have to go into research on how the puppets are manipulated, get a book on Bunraku and Indian, and by the time you're doing research, you get educated in another field, which is wonderful. Also.
Let's see what the puppets look. Can you do a puppet?
No, of course.
You want me to show you how, or can you get it right out of your own head?
This is the puppeteer, you know, it's a guy who looks like this, and then he would put a puppet under his arm here, and it would be a rod puppet.
You know what's awful about you? The fact that you're so reluctant to do any artwork. It's just so difficult to get you to it.
Well, it's complicated.
I'm so lucky that you're in the mood right now. Oh, that's great.
I'm sorry,
this is the
first of all-
puppeteer. This is the puppet.
Well-
Looks like one of the Punch and Judy's. He's Punch, right?
In a way,
That type.
And the problem with cartooning is that there's no difference between a cartoon and a puppet. Both are cartoons.
Yeah.
If we were doing a satire or something, this character should be very seriously drawn. You know? But you see how
Well, to
simple...
me, these are seriously drawn. These make a great statement.
There you are.
That's
puppeteer.
terrific.
And then, of course, we have to do the puppet stage.
You know another beautiful thing about doing cartoons like this? You can really make any statement you want within the framework of these silly stories. I mean, you can have Gru, you can have a story where he comments on anything. The theme of it could be against bigotry and prejudice.
That's
it could
right.
be for
slavery,
something about
anything you want.
homelessness.
Well, I did
and
that
you
issue
do it
on
in a humorous way, and that gets the point across so beautifully.
Yes, the issue I did about the homeless, it was about a certain mayor of a town who says, please bring all the homeless to my town, we will take care of them. Gru literally takes the word and brings the whole caboodle over there. And it was, I'd done issues about garbage, about...
What was the theme of the garbage one?
filling a canyon.
Filling a canyon with garbage?
The best solution of garbage is not having any garbage at all. That's the moral of the story. So GRU goes to all the facets of it, putting it in a canyon, recycling it. No solution. Burning it, throwing it into the ocean. There's no answer. The answer is not
Can't
having
get rid of it.
No, the answer is minimizing to the point that it's non-existent. But so it's important to use a comic, have fun, but at the same time have something to say.
In your own nutty way, in this strip, you're showing that violence accomplishes nothing, that we should not have garbage. That's the best answer to the garbage problem. Well, and all of the social problems that you can tackle, you can really get them across in a humorous way.
It is just not a synonym, but it's just a vehicle, GRU, to talk about whatever you want, because you can place it in any period you want. GRU also does about one of the issues I did. It's called the Island of Felicidad, the Island of Happiness. It's just a perfect island, and when GRU arrives, and when GRU leaves, that island has become our modern society. They don't have fences, they don't have money, they don't have violence. They don't have,
they didn't in the beginning.
No, but when GRU arrives, start ruining everything just by changing something. It's like a symbiotic relation between all the island, and he disrupting a little bit ruins everything. Even politics are born like that, because suddenly leaders are born and coins are born. Everything is just a process of accumulation.
Do you remember the little discussion we had last night about politics and the problems in in cities and everything? I think most people looking at your drawings would never know that Sergio Aragonés is really quite a deep thinker and really quite concerned with issues today. And I think it's wonderful. And I think so many cartoonists and writers are. And it's so great if you can get your ideas across without making it seem as though you're preaching, where it's done in an entertaining way. Now, who's this guy?
Political.
A politician.
Politicians
he'd have to be.
See, all politicians are drawn one way, all militaries are drawn one way, see, authority. Everything is in a cartoon.
They're symbols.
Everything is a cliche.
Yeah, that's right.
And the promise is that we cannot get out of the cliches and model it in pantomime cartoon. When we talk about feminism and having this, people ask me, why don't you draw a female doctor? So, well, the very simple is that we still associate a woman in uniform as a nurse. So when I'm doing a gag and I says, well, I'm going to be firm, I'm going to, instead of be a doctor, I'm going to use a female doctor. I don't use words. So suddenly when you see the gag, now your attention is directed to this character, why is a woman, and you lose the gag. Because you're paying attention to this woman being a doctor.
You mean if you get away from the cliche in a gag, it diverts the reader's attention?
That's right. Yeah. In this particular case, I cannot get rid of that cliche. Society has to get rid of that cliche. Give me a more normal ground to work with, and when everybody understands that women are equal, then everybody will understand my joke, because I dress the doctor as a woman, you see?
Now take notice, society. Don't anybody try to change this man's work until you clean up your own act first. Remember that.
When you draw a cartoon, a broken nose indicates bad guy.
That's right, that's right. Or a cauliflower ear.
Yeah, if I draw a cartoon like this,
he's not a bad guy.
No, he's an accountant.
That's right.
But that guy could be the cruelest, meanest, murderous guy in the world. If we take a guy with a nose like this and a big chin like this...
He's a pug.
He's a pug, he's a policeman. If I change his helmet, he'll be anything you want, because you associate this with strength. That guy could be a doctor.
And the funny thing is, this guy could be an accountant, this guy could be a gangster, but all of us think in terms of symbols and cliches, don't we?
A soldier.
Yeah.
A policeman,
Anything tough.
A boxer, So the cliches is how we work.
Why is it in movies, when you have a hero, you make him handsome, and when you try to get a villain, you get somebody who's unpleasant and ugly looking? Now, we know in real life, most villains look like you. They're lovely looking, and they're evil and cruel. In fact, I've never trusted you since the minute I've met you. And as magnificent looking as I am, I might be a villain too. You never know, right?
Pointing case, yes.
But it is true. I wonder why we all think in such a cliched way.
Typecasting.
Is it because of the cartoonists?
Typecasting. We're the cartoonists.
Don't forget, cartoonists.
No.
Cartoonists sort of started it. They had to give us the symbols to begin with.
Well, cartooning is one of the earliest form of drawing, and cartoon has been going from the real beginning, before the Egyptians. And this is the oldest career in the world. But yes.
Well, you wouldn't be as fast if you were doing it in the olden days, because there's no way you could chisel a cartoon on the wall of a cave this quickly. Although you'd find a way. You'd find a way, I suspect.
The process has eliminated everything. Before, a cartoonist had to do a lithograph of a newspaper. So he had to do a lot of work on it, to spend the whole day doing the cartoon.
Right.
Now, with a new modern process, you have Xerox, you have faxes, and there's a more demand. Styles get simplified also, storytelling get more simplified. There's so many things to do in Earth nowadays. Everybody's in a rush. You cannot tell a long story. Even television hours have to become 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that short span is not that people are becoming more stupid, it's because there's other things to do, more and more things to do.
And everybody has a shorter interest span now. It's harder to hold people's interest for a longer period of time. For instance, if you talk for more than 2 sentences, I have to get myself back to what you... Listen, I just thought of something. You have not yet drawn a female for us here, have you? And the whole world is waiting to see what an Aragonés female looks like.
Well,
and there are many types of them, I know.
The females are anything you want. I mean, there could be a female like this, you know, which is more in the style of a cartoon female, you know.
Now, how about a glamour girl?
Well, the glamour girl just put a little pocket note.
It is incredible how you get the whole feeling in 2 lines. Oh, that's just great. I promised I wouldn't use the word wonderful, but that's just wonderful. Yeah, it's a little girl female.
Well, any age female had to read.
If only it didn't come to you with such difficulty. You know, the awful thing about what you're doing, people are going to be watching you, and they're going to go running to their desk and taking a magic marker and figuring, Jesus, I never realized I can draw like that.
Yes.
I mean, it's easy, and they'll try it.
Absolutely.
And they're going to get frustrated as possible.
Well, it comes, as I said before, with practice. It's like playing the piano. The analogy is, you want to play the piano, if you sit on a piano, what's going to happen? You go cling, 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 and nothing happens. You practice 8 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 2 hours a day. The more you practice, the better you become. Same thing with drawing. You sit on your piece of paper, you draw.
Yeah.
If you draw 10 minutes a day, it'll be better than if you don't draw at all. But if you draw 8 hours a day, you're going to become excellent. The more you draw, the better you become. The better you become, the more you want to learn. The more you learn, the better you become. People like your work, they pay you, and suddenly you're a professional without even noticing it.
That's the longest speech I ever heard you make without taking a breath. That was absolutely wonderful. Now, let me tell you, I'm going to tell you the problem I would have. That's great. I would have a big problem, because I know if I were to practice 8 hours a day and devote myself to it for years and so forth, with my luck, I'd end up drawing like Michelangelo instead of like Sergio Aragonés, so I still wouldn't make it.
Well, yes, you would, because before I did cartoon, I drew like Michelangelo. I had to change.
And you had to unlearn all of that stuff.
Yes, I know the muscle
it must have been
proportion.
difficult.
It was terrible, terrible.
Now, let me ask you, what if you tried to draw a serious face? I mean, if you tried to draw a superhero face the way it is in our comics, would you be able to, or would
I doubt
it's just
very
not
much.
Your style?
It is not only is not my style, it becomes that there's certain proportions in an anatomy that you have to follow, you know, and muscles, and they'll be better the more you practice it. Don't forget that I spend at least 8 hours a day just drawing my cartoons, you know. So
Sergio, I want to tell you something. I think with about 60 seconds practice, you could draw any superhero strip in the business, because that's great.
No, it is also a matter of drawing the same thing over and over. You know that in China, there's people who, an artist, have to draw for 3 or 4 years bamboo.
Yeah.
And the only thing the man does is bamboo.
That's right.
You know, those strokes for 4 years until bamboo is bamboo. And then they will tell him, well, now you can do bird. You know, he goes to another graduation. So, like every job and every career, it needs practice.
In China, if a guy doesn't live to be about 120 years old, never becomes a finished artist.
No. Also, the craft, being an apprentice, being an officer, and being a maestro, it has disappeared. Because everybody wants instant gratification on their work. You know, when a cartoonist have a chance to practice. There's none as good.
Well, let me tell you, as far as I'm concerned, I think if you stick with it a little longer, and really keep practicing, you just may make it, Sergio.
Take
And
time.
listen, let me tell you, our time is up. But I've got to tell you, I have never had a better time. And
Thank you.
I cannot thank you enough for being here. And I think it is very clear why we call this series The Comic Book Greats.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay, now.